descriptions of lesser-known indigenous nations from various parts of the United States, and the conflicts or wartime experiences that have impacted them. Each item includes information about the area, the conflict's setting, common weapons and tactics, and potential after-effects. This cross-country sampler aims to bring to light neglected narratives outside of commonly taught campaigns. Northern New England into Quebec, inner river basins, eastern woodlands, and northeast Wabanaki territory. Conflict context. During colonial battles in the 17th and 18th centuries, such as the King Philip's War era and the French-British struggles, there were frequent raids, militia retaliations, and forced migrations. Weapons and strategies included guerrilla raids, ambushes, alliance negotiations with French colonists, and traditional bows, war clubs, and eventually muskets acquired through trade. Consequences include village site loss, exodus into Canada, displacement, and subsequent legal and recognition issues. Members of the Wabanaki Confederacy, such as lesser-known Penobscot bands. Territory, interior waterways and coastal Maine. Conflict context. European imperial wars-related attacks and reprisals throughout the colonial era, followed by settler militia pressure. Weapons and strategies include canoe attacks, ambushes, trade muskets, and the use of close coastline expertise. Consequences include the creation of reservations, fractured communities, and continuous cultural revival. The river valleys of modern-day Georgia and Alabama make up southeast Muscogee Territory. Context of the conflict. The Creek War, 1813 to 1814, a factional civil war including U.S. military operations and accommodationist Creek and Red Stick resistance, wider bloodshed throughout the removal era. Weapons and tactics include guerrilla warfare, fortified towns, partnerships with other indigenous people, and both traditional and acquired guns. Large-scale land cessions, many people's forced relocation via the Trail of Tears, and survivors' integration into the reconstituted Muscogee Nation are the after-effects. Choctaw-associated bands and minority towns, territory, riverine country in Mississippi and Alabama. Conflict context. During the early 19th century, smaller-scale incursions, factional bloodshed, and forced treaty negotiation resulted in the ceding of territory. Weapons and strategies. Town defense constructions, a combination of traded and native weapons. Consequences. Some people made concessions and moved west, while others stayed and subsequently restructured their tribal governments. Texas and the Southeast Plains, Quasarde and Coushatta splinter factions in Alabama. Territory, following displacement, eastern Texas and surrounding areas. Conflict context. Periodic violence and land loss were caused by pressure from Anglo settlement, Texas conflicts, and 19th century removals. Weapons and strategies. Hit-and-run strategies on frontier terrain, small raiding parties, muskets by the middle of the 1800s. Consequences. Generations later, a number of organizations combined, moved, or applied for federal status. Potawatomi refugee bands in the Midwest and Great Lakes. Territory. Inland prairies, southern Lake Michigan, and eventually Kansas and Oklahoma. The Black Hawk War's aftermath, militia retaliation, and forced treaty cessions during the 1820s and 1830s provide the conflict setting. Weapons and tactics. By the middle of the 19th century, muskets and rifles were available. Ambush and retreat tactics were used in mixed woodland prairie terrain. Consequences. Intertribal refugee colonies, forced relocation routes, and current minor federally recognized bands. Ho-Chunk, Winnebago, dispersed bands. Territory, Wisconsin and surrounding regions. Numerous detachments relocated to Nebraska and Iowa. Conflict context. 19th century militia conflicts, intermittent resistance, and removal pressures. Weapons and tactics include tactical retreats, defensive village techniques, and a combination of traditional and traded firearms. Consequences include community reconstruction, subsequent legal claims, and fragmentation. The Plains Arikara affiliated settlements, small towns. Territory, villages along the Missouri River, now North Dakota. Context of conflict. U.S. military campaigns linked to steamboat and trader developments exacerbated intertribal conflict and raids in the 19th century. Weapons and strategies include defensive earthwork towns, bows, lances, horses, and firearms following encounter. Disease, raids, and pressure to unite or seek safety with ally tribes are the aftereffects. Splinter bands of the Cheyenne, lesser-known warrior societies. Territory, Colorado to Montana along the Great Plains. Conflict context. During the Plains Wars, there were several encounters with the U.S. Army. Smaller bands participated in isolated conflicts, retaliation, and peace negotiations. Weapons and tactics. Hit-and-run cavalry tactics, mounted warfare with lances, bows, and subsequently repeating rifles. Consequences include band division, forced relocation to reservations, and eventually federated tribal systems. Highlands in central and western Arizona comprise the southwest Yavapai subgroup territory. Conflict setting includes the Apache Yavapai conflicts, U.S. and territorial militia campaigns in the middle of the 19th century, and large deportations to prison camps. Weapons and tactics, mixed use of firearms and traditional weapons, ambushes, rough terrain, and guerrilla mountain warfare. Consequences include forced marches to presidios or reserves, significant death rates, and protracted fights for land rights and recognition. Small detachments from Tohono O'odham and Pima Bajo territory, the border between northern Mexico and what is now Arizona. Cross-border raids, militia retaliations, and borderland interruptions between Mexico and the United States throughout the 19th century are examples of conflict context. Weapons and strategies, raids in the area, riding horses, and using firearms when they are accessible. Consequences include disputed reservation statuses, divided communities, and binational cultural continuities. Steilacoom from the Pacific Northwest and other bands from the southern Puget Sound area, Chambers Bay, southern Puget Sound. Conflict context. Local settler militia conflicts and evictions during the Puget Sound War period in the 1850s that garner little national notice. Weaponry and tactics, ambush and defensive maneuvers around communities, canoe-based mobility, traditional weaponry, and some usage of traded muskets. Consequences include the loss of village locations, marginalization, and integration into mixed tribal or larger reservation politics. Cowlitz subsidiary bands. Smaller riverine villages in Lower Columbia make up the territory. Conflict context. In the middle of the 19th century, settlers and militia activities drove people from important fishing and estuary locations. Weapons and strategies, village evacuation and strategic relocation, riverine defense with bows, spears, and eventually muskets. Consequences include a protracted fight for cultural revitalization and federal recognition. These lesser-told stories remind us that across this land, resistance and resilience are woven into every map. Listen, learn, and let their truths guide how we remember and rebuild.